Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/BoomersBeingFools for you all. And real quick, GamerSupps has launched 3 new flavors, so be sure to check those out with code OZ at checkout. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. LB0. Boomer jumped on my car. Boomer freak out. A few months ago, I pulled in the supermarket parking lot. I pull into the space closest to the store since I'm disabled. The car next to me isn't parked correctly and is between the lines. I think nothing of it since I am perfectly in the lines and still have room to get out. I go and put a mask on before I start to get ready to get out of the car because at the time I had low white blood cells and even a common cold could be bad for me. As I'm putting it on, a boomer walking into the store makes eye contact with me. Then, he turns around and starts charging my car. He jumps on top of it and starts slamming on my windows, calling me an asshole and demanding I move my car, claiming he can't get into his car. I lock myself in the car and call the police while Boomer is slamming on my windshield demanding I move my car and yelling expletives. A woman nearby sees what's going on and the Boomer plays victim, yelling he thinks I have a gun, and then he gets in his car and moves it to a different spot. The woman convinces the old man to leave. She then came over to me to see what was going on when she told me the Boomer said he normally doesn't yell at women. He kinda proved that false. The police showed up a half hour later and did nothing, even though I had all his car info. I'm just baffled to this day that this is how the Boomer handled that. Nowadays, I plan on pepper spraying if something like that happens again. Yes, the logic of this person has a gun, so I'm going to charge their car and jump on their windshield, because that's definitely the safest thing to do for someone who has a gun and is unstable. Right, that makes total sense. It also makes total sense that he's claiming he can't access his car and yet manages to drive it away and put it in a different spot. Either we have one of the most dramatic lead paint-inflicted boomers that we've seen yet, or something else is going on here. Grand Canyon Gallist. Hotel breakfast buffet isn't open a half an hour early. Boomer story. My wife and I are on a nice vacation in the American Mountain West for our 10th anniversary. I'm in the hotel lobby reading a book because I'm usually up an hour or two before the missus. About 6:30 a.m., I noticed a crowd of boomers forming at the breakfast buffet, which is clearly marked to open at 7 o'clock. These people haven't missed a meal in their lives, but they're salivating at those single-serving Cheerio containers, like they just got out of a Soviet gulag. Suddenly, I hear a bunch of activity over my shoulder, and it's one boomer unhooking the rope and helping himself to some grub. Others start moving in. A staff member gets involved and kicks them out because it's not all set up. Cue the outrage. Because the food isn't ready 30 minutes earlier. They have things to do, like block traffic in the national parks, damn it! Eventually, they let the horde of 7-year-old toddlers have their way and open up about 20 minutes early, of course. Cue further outrage because all the food isn't out yet. Where's the fruit? Why can't I make a waffle? How do you have breakfast without orange juice? They get even angrier that the staff responded, "It's not ready yet." Just a whole self-feeding cycle of stupidity and entitlement, stealing perfectly good oxygen the rest of us could have put to better use. So this does give the option of either 1, they can't read the signs and just assumed everything was ready because things were setting out, or 2, they thought they should deserve special privileges because they're older and, they have different schedules and, they should really have their meals right now. Perhaps they have like a tour bus or something along those lines they are planning on getting to that leaves at 7 and they woke up at 6:30 hoping to grab breakfast but were met with the fact that, breakfast buffet isn't open yet. Perhaps they should have read the brochure beforehand. But if you do get access to breakfast early with the understanding that, hey, it's not fully ready yet but you're still getting in, and then complain that things aren't ready yet, that's just kind of a you problem at that point. Fossorian. My mom tried to make my 12-year-old niece responsible for keeping my sister sober. Boomer story. Another instance of my parents being super problematic. My sister, who passed away in 2012, had a long history from the age of 14 of substance abuse. She got clean in her early 20s and had 2 children with her husband. She and her husband separated in 2005, and my nephew, born in 1993, went to live with his dad, while my niece, born in 1995, lived with her mom. When my niece was around 10, my sister relapsed. In 2007, we had Thanksgiving at my parents' house. My sister and niece came. My sister was drunk and probably high and slept through most of the festivities. After dinner, my mom pulled my then 12-year-old niece aside and told her she needed to hide my sister's alcohol and drugs to keep her alive, and that she was in charge of making sure my sister stayed sober. My niece started crying and said she tried, but Mom would get mad at her if she messed with her drinks or drugs. My mom doubled down and said that if she wanted her mom to be healthy, it was her job to make sure it happened. I spoke up and told Mom that it wasn't fair to put that on a child, that it was too much responsibility for someone so young. This was probably the first time I ever really challenged my parents on their bullshit. My mom lost it on me, yelled at me that it was bullshit psychology crap, that she had to deal with much more as a child, and that since my niece was the only one in the home, then it was up to her to take care of my sister. I told my mom that she was nuts and ended up leaving once my dad got involved and also started berating me for spouting evil new age satanic stuff. I ended up calling my niece's dad and he proceeded to get custody of my niece to keep her safe. Seriously, why are boomers so adverse to mental health discussions and not putting ridiculous responsibilities onto children? The worst part about this is there's a decent chance that that niece is going to grow up with the inherent inbuilt responsibility and guilt of the fact that I didn't save my mother and it's my fault she's dead. I didn't try hard enough. She's going to grow up with that because of this kind of bullshit, when that's not her responsibility. That's not her fault. And that is something that it's probably going to take years of therapy to even begin to process and get past. Also, way to go for the mom for not even looking after her own daughter, instead putting her grandchild to the responsibility of looking after her daughter, rather than, being a good parent and stepping in and trying to give their child the help they need. No. It's all on the 12-year-old's responsibility who's actively in a household where she gets yelled at and mistreated profusely when she tries to step in and do anything to help her mother. I'm also really happy that the stigma around therapy is beginning to heavily waver, because there's nothing wrong with going to therapy or, as the boomers might say, seeing a shrink or getting counseling. There's nothing wrong with that. It means that you recognize that you have problems and you're willing to go through the effort in seeing yourself improve. There is nothing to be ashamed of that. But for some reason, boomers seem to have the ideology that even admitting that you might have a problem with yourself is already defeat. In my experience and from what I've seen, boomers would rather gossip and talk about the shit you're going through rather than wanting you to actually get it fixed. They like the drama. Kindly cut 65-2. Boomer freaks out because I bought condoms. Boomer freak out. So I was at Walmart the other day minding my own business, picking up some essentials. One of those essentials? Condoms. No big deal, right? Well, apparently it was a big deal to this boomer in line behind me. As I'm checking out, this older dude sees what I'm buying and immediately starts huffing and puffing, making those passive-aggressive comments like, back in my day, people waited until they were married to do that kind of thing. Like, excuse me, is this 1950? I didn't realize I needed this random guy's approval for my choice. He then proceeds to give me a full-on lecture about morals and how the younger generation is ruining society. I'm just standing there thinking, dude, you're in a Walmart, not church. Chill out. It's 2024. I'm a grown adult making responsible choices. But apparently, that's just too much for some boomers to handle. So this reminds me of a time when I was like 14 or 15. I don't exactly remember when, but I was just starting high school. And I was in a grocery store called Fred Meyer. It's basically a local chain of grocery stores, kind of like a Walmart or a Target. And I was there with some buddies, and we were screwing around the grocery store because we wanted to buy some glazed donuts and some sodas and whatnot, just to kind of have a bit of a rascal night, as 14 and 15-year-olds do. And we stumbled upon the condom aisle. Me, having no shame in goofing around, basically said, "Ah, damn, do they have anything smaller than this?" And my buddy, trying to play off of it, said, "Ah, damn, do they have anything larger than these?" On second thought, revisiting this, I wonder if the boomer who cornered us thought that we were homosexuals. I mean, he was kind of right. But we had apparently said this loud enough for a boomer to come out from some crevice of the grocery store, God knows where, turns through the aisle and looks at us and goes, "Oi!" I heel turn and I just walk away. I wasn't there for it. That was just my response in a confrontation. I just started walking away. I thought my buddy was right behind me, but no, he turned and made eye contact with the boomer, and me, one aisle away, heard the boomer lecturing my friend on the purity of waiting until marriage. And this wasn't just some quick, you should really be waiting until marriage, young man. This was like a 5-minute long lecture, and me, not wanting to leave the homies behind, was stuck awkwardly perusing the woman's feminine product aisle because I still wanted to hear what was going on, but I didn't want to get caught in the boomer's crossfire, so I was just kind of stuck in a 15-year-old boy's nightmare, being forced to explore the feminine hygiene aisle, while also not trying to bust out laughing at this old guy who's yelling at my friend for joking about buying condoms. NX01 forever. Male boomer tried to take my 6-month-old out of my arms. Boomer story. My husband and I were having a garage sale, and during which an older white male boomer stops by. I'm standing out in front with my son in my arms on my left side. My husband is sitting, and my dad, almost boomer age, but thankfully without boomer tendencies, is kind of in front of my husband, so he can't stand up quickly without risking knocking into my dad. After looking and not buying, old boomer comes up to where we're chatting with my dad, sees my son, and starts asking the tired yet creepy question, how much for the baby? That we'd already heard from 3 previous boomers today. Well, of course he's directing this to my son, who upon hearing the word baby, smiles, and this geezer took it to mean he could try to take him out of my arms. Boomer reaches for my son, who, mind you, doesn't even consistently reach for me or my husband yet, as he's barely 6 months old, so I angle him further away and try to laugh it off while saying something like, he's not for sale. The dude then reaches again. I shift the baby thoroughly to my left hip and angle my body away from the boomer more, so he's only getting the right side of my body. My dad realizes what's happening after freezing for a moment and says, he likes his mama. And my husband is staring daggers at the guy, but as there are folks in the garage browsing, he's trying to keep his cool. Boomer laughs it off and wanders back to his car while my husband, dad, and I just ask each other if that really happened. I had older folks touch his feet without permission before, and I could maneuver us away at stores, but this was so uncomfortable and far beyond that. My husband was finally able to stand up once my dad moved and immediately grabbed my son, telling him that mama kept him away from the stranger danger, but I still feel like I could have been more forceful. We were all pretty weirded out by it for a while. Even my boomer-age neighbor who had her own sale going was weirded out by it when I explained and was shocked that he was that forward. See, what I don't understand is what is with it with boomers and just entitled people in general when they very clearly don't want you to do something of trying it 2 or 3 more times just to see if maybe you'll change your mind. Maybe it's just because I'm incredibly socially awkward and incredibly self-aware of the fact that when someone doesn't want me to do something and I up and try to do that thing and it very clearly makes them uncomfortable, my immediate thought is I'm gonna back away, and this exact instance and scenario is gonna come up while I'm showering or I'm trying to sleep at night. It's going to haunt me for the rest of time. So I don't understand how someone can basically see the abject I don't want you to touch my child and no. Let me grab your baby from you. See, but personally, real talk, I have the exact problem. I don't like holding babies because I personally am very afraid that I'll hold them wrong or I won't be able to support the neck properly or something along those lines. So when someone offers hey, do you want to hold the baby? It's always I'm good. Trust me, I'm okay. No, really, you should hold it. No, you should trust me. I'm okay. This is unfortunately an exact conversation I had with my aunt when they adopted their child, and I was definitely not prepared to hold him. Michael Cochran, 77. Boomer jerk kicked and punched my dog at the dog park. Boomer story. First off, my dog is fine. Feeble old man isn't strong enough to actually hurt my dog. It was just the audacity of his actions. Setting. Nice dog park. Big dog section and small dog section. About 12 to 15 dogs. Everyone getting along great. Characters. 70-ish-year-old boomer in Texas Longhorn shirt and MAGA hat. Me, 47 male. Max, 80 pounds solid. Head like a cement block. Happiest, nicest dog in the world. Loves everyone. Boomer comes in the big dog section with his little dog, which is fine. Other small dogs were in there. Everyone is cool. Boomer talks to someone he knows for a few minutes. Never lets his dog off the leash. Kind of drags him around. He starts walking over to the gate that goes to the small dog section. Max trots over to say hi to the little dog. They sniff each other, tails are wagging. Little dog gives Max a little doggy smooch. And out of nowhere, Boomer kicks Max in the ribs and punches him on top of the head. Max was fine. He barely flinched, and I promise you, this was completely unwarranted. I was about 15 feet away, but I saw the whole thing. Max was scared and confused and started looking around for me, but I covered that 15 feet in about 0.3 seconds. I lost my ever-loving mind. I've never yelled at anyone like that in my life. I never touched him, but I sure wanted him to believe I would. I don't remember everything I said, but it was terrible. I know I said something like, "I know he's big, but you're on the big dog side, you fucking moron." And at one point, I asked him what in the hell gave him the right to kick and punch my dog. He stammered a little and said, well, he was in my way. I lost it all over again. Then I remembered something you all say on here. I stopped. I looked at him for a few seconds and said, "Where's your caretaker? Is there someone I can call for you?" And bless you fellow Redditors, it worked so well. His defiance turned to shame. His demeanor went from stoic to embarrassed. He and his dog just left, and on his way out, someone said to him, "You should apologize to Max." Just pure icing on the cake. He did not, of course. It's been a couple of days and still just so angry, but I don't know if I took it too far. A couple of people said I handled it like they would have, but I could tell others were scared. A few people had phones out ready to call 911. Max was clearly fine, so I wonder if I took it too far. Not sure if I'd change anything though. I'm more inclined to believe a majority of this story, maybe not the caretaker part, but I do know that boomers for some reason have it instilled that physical discipline is perfectly acceptable with dogs. That is something that I severely disagree with. And when I say physical discipline, I mean smacking them or kicking them or anything that involves excessive force. Hell, I've met a few boomers who believe in physical discipline on dogs, one of them being my ex's father, who, while the dog was a puppy, used physical correction and would hit, smack, and bop to correct behaviors that weren't allowed. And keep in mind, this wasn't even his dog either. I know that some people might argue that physical discipline on a dog is fine, but personally it's something that I'm not fond of or a fan of. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because it does add to credibility of this story that a lot of boomers were raised with the idea that it's okay to physically smack a dog if they're misbehaving, and my guess would be this boomer probably wasn't a fan of having such a large dog around him, so decided to try and assert dominance or something along those lines. I'm not sure. Because there was no conversation or argument, if we're going by what OP stated, about the boomer finding the dog to be a threat to himself or his dog. It was more of, "This dog is in my way." Aggravating fix 1322. Meltdown at Denny's. Boomer story. My grandma took me to dinner at Denny's recently, and it was a fine time. Until she saw the club sandwich. She saw there was an avocado on the picture, which resulted in her saying, "There's no avocado on a club sandwich. It's not a club sandwich with avocado." And I tell her that it's just a sandwich. Who cares? Take off the avocado. She then begins to shout about how stupid Denny's is for having a club sandwich with avocado. I tell her that she's overreacting and that again, it's just simply a sandwich. But she said it's not about the sandwich, it's about them trying to change everything. Obviously, we all know that avocado on a sandwich is not a political statement, which is something I also tell her, and that she needs to stop getting worked up. But she says I'm getting her worked up about it. Clearly, I must have been antagonizing her so much that she continued to make comments about club sandwiches the rest of the time and how offensive tipping is. 10 out of 10, would not recommend taking elderly people who are scared of change to Denny's. Edit addressed in the comments about it possibly being dementia. There is a chance it could be that, but she has always been like this since I was a kid. She's basically the reason I never send anything back while eating out. See, the problem is that them, in quotation marks, implies a lot. And, it could either be the liberals or another class of people entirely, which would definitely raise a lot of questions beyond just simply blaming the liberals for putting avocado on a club sandwich. Perhaps I'm mistaken and avocado is actually what turns people into liberals, and by them putting avocado on club sandwiches, they're trying to turn our sweet, poor, innocent babies into liberals with their avocados. Either they or the them means a specific religion, and then there's a whole new side of it where them are trying to mind control us with their avocado powers. The more likely explanation is they probably started offering the avocado with the club sandwich because it adds more color to the photos. Food will oftentimes look far more appetizing the more colors that are natural colors are included within the photo of something. Like seriously, just look at like a Philly cheesesteak with just green peppers, then add red and green peppers, yellow peppers. It changes the entire appeal of the sandwich. It makes it look a lot more appetizing the more colors you have on it. And plus, with avocados being a trendy food at the moment, it kind of makes sense. We gotta have more green in our club sandwich, throw an avocado in there, bada boy, there we go. Dumbass Hetalia on. He's the original poster of this story. Mom doesn't understand why teachers have second jobs as waiters. Boomer story. My mom and dad just came back from cottage country and we met up to have a nice dinner and visit. During our conversation, she told me about how their waitress at a restaurant there told her that she was a teacher, but she was a waitress to make extra money in the summer and in her downtime. The waitress played this off in accordance with the usual social contract of, boy, it's hectic, but I do it because I like it. So hearing this, I think, commiserating with the waitress here, sure girl, all of us millennials went to university because it was going to lead to our career paths or whatever. We all grind, I hear you, I see you, I am you. Our night goes on, dinner progresses, and lo and behold, our waitress at the local restaurant where they visited with me mentions that serving isn't her only job. She explains that she's a teacher. Her husband is also in his university-bound career and has a second job. We have a nice rapport and the night wraps up. Boomer Mom is lauding these waitress teachers' work ethic as we leave. I say, it is a glaringly loud remark on the state of teachers' salaries when two people in less than a week have casually told you about how they work their university-bound career and a less than minimum wage tip-reliant job to get by at the current cost of living. My mom disagreed with me and plugged the work ethic, then proceeded to prove herself wrong with my guidance. She argued with me and Googled average teachers' salaries in our country and pointed out the highest provinces, far from here, and the two teachers they spoke to. She got quiet, albeit sulkily, at last when I pointed out that it's not uniform countrywide or relevant to the convo at hand. I don't want to get too soapboxy here because I know that most of you in my audience understand the perils that teachers have to go through on a day-to-day basis. The best way you can fix that is making sure that you're supporting local policies that help put money back into the school system and can help raise teachers' salaries. That's the best way for you to lend any kind of support, honestly, or donating to local school resources and whatnot. The situation that we have in America, and I'm sure also probably extends to Canada and other countries, is honestly really discouraging, but the best thing you can do is make sure you're supporting local policies and local programs to help fund teachers and schools with the finances they need. No county old. Boomers at Costco stealing from other people's carts. Boomer story. I was at Costco this weekend with my wife, and we usually wander separately so we can get what we need and get out of there as quickly as possible. So what? Well, it gets funny later. It was unusually crowded, almost like it was a holiday weekend, and I made my way to the baked goods section to get some croissants, and there were none. There was this boomer couple complaining to the bakery department that they came in today just for the croissants, and there are none. And what are they supposed to do? Before I could get my phone for some video, they walk away in a huff. I wander over to the frozen foods to get some things before heading back to check out, and I see the husband walking around by himself, looking at people's carts. I then see him reach in and take a container of croissants from someone's cart and scurry off. I was gobsmacked, and I wasn't sure if it was the theft or how spry he was. I text my wife that I was done and head up towards the checkout, which she says she'll meet up with me in the front and has to tell me something. I get online and she points to the older couple about 6 carts ahead of us and tells me that she saw the older woman going around and looking at people's carts and eventually saw her try to steal croissants from several people's wagons. I told her that was pretty funny and that the lady's husband was much more successful because I saw him steal some back in the frozen food section. Lots of crappy entitled people on a normal day, but damn. So honestly, I've never had the Costco croissants, but there is no way in hell that they're good enough to risk the public embarrassment of yoinking it from other people's carts. Because you know that wife probably had a really rough time with the amount of people that probably like, hey, what the hell are you doing? Those are my croissants, I grabbed them first. And then probably some kind of excuse of, well, my husband and I really need them, so you should just give them to me. That doesn't even begin to mention the husband and his spry ability to steal from a cart when no one's looking. I mean, seriously. Like, if you saw an old man steal something from your cart and then, like, waddle away at Mach 3, would you stop him? Or, like, just be like, well, damn, I guess he really wanted those croissants. I just can't imagine them being that good to risk that kind of public embarrassment. Especially because it's Costco. You're going to end up running into the same people multiple times just from the simple fact of it's a membership structure. If it were like a Walmart, you could always go to a different Walmart, but can't really go to a different Costco. Unless your town has 2 Costcos, then I guess you could. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget this whole thing is basically brought to you by GamerSupps. If you like caffeine, then I can't recommend GamerSupps enough. Use code OZ at checkout to support the channel. And I do actually use this product. It's replaced all other sources of caffeine for me because I feel good. It doesn't have any of that extra stuff that a pre-workout blend might have. It's with a couple of the extra things to make it so you don't crash as hard. It's good. I like it. Personally, if you really want a good flavor, try the Soda Pressing Pear or even the Dragon Fruit Punch. Those 2 are my personal favorites right now.